Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andrea Thomas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Hello, welcome back. Today, guest, we have Justin, which is a former client of mine. And I'm so honored to have him on our podcast today because he has been growing like crazy. His life, it's like 180 degrees since I've met him. We've met each other how many years ago, Justin? 2020?
Yeah, 2020, it was end of February, early March, just before everything shut down for COVID in Los Angeles at a Mind Valley Live event. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just been
Yeah.
3 years now, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. How long it's been. And
How time
welcome.
flies.
I'm super excited to have you and for us to have a deep, profound conversation on purpose, on transitioning from a super stable, logical, well paid job into your purpose. And I would love for you to just say a few words about yourself, introduce yourself because you're the best person that can do that. So the audience know exactly who it's listening from.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess I should be good at this because I literally just updated the intro to my podcast. I'm going to relaunch that after taking some time off. But yeah, a little bit about me. I haven't fully gotten rid of all of the logical engineering related stuff. I still do work a tech job as well, but I do also work a transformational coaching job, which is why I do the podcast. And I, teach clients one-on-one and do group coaching to help people basically get out of just, being successful, but maybe miserable, unhappy to actually pursuing what they really enjoy, what they fulfill. And about a month ago, I launched a book, Engineered to Love, going beyond success to fulfillment. And I'm, all about like, let's make this practical. Like, what can you do? What can you do to get started? I mean, I am also like spiritual and a big fan of the intangible stuff, but I remember being back when like, if there's not an equation to solve it, doesn't work in a spreadsheet, like I don't want to hear it. And so I'm always a big fan of like, okay, well, how can I get to where people are? And so like my background where I came from was, like you said, very, very logical, very math, very science driven. Like there's got to be proof, right? So I was always like really good at school. So I got a PhD in electrical engineering, and then I started working in the tech field. That was in 2010, and it was one of those like I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Like be good at work, get a promotion, then get kind of start to figure out relationships, which is actually sort of my gateway into coaching was through the relationship world. Like, okay, how can I actually like find women to date that I actually want to like be around? And I eventually ended up me finding someone that I married. And that was sort of like during that while I was married, so it's like I got a house, I got a wife, a dog, a cat, all this thing. Why am I so miserable? Because I really wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And when we're not doing what we're really supposed to be doing, there starts to be these clues like health issues or depression or anxiety or anger or use of substance. And I was having, many, many of those things. And, it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything to help with these things. Cause I've been, you know, doing yoga and meditation and working with therapists and working with coaches for, depending on what the modality is, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years now, some of these things. But eventually it did get to a point where it's like, okay, time for something major. Like I was ready to like quit my job. But luckily I didn't quit. I just took a long leave of absence.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. And so that's when a lot of things started to shift because kind of when it's really hard to heal when you're still doing the thing that's been causing the trauma and the damage and the pain. I think think someone had like a saying that's like, it's hard for yourself to heal if you keep hitting yourself over the head with the bat. Like you gotta first step one is stop hitting yourself with the bat. And that was, taking the time away from like first my job and then second thing that happened. And some of this was in my control, but some of it wasn't. And, taking a step away from my marriage. So those are two things that I identified with where I'm like, I am an engineer, I am a husband. And then within about 6 months, both of those are effectively no longer true. And it's just like, well, who the fuck am I?
They crashed. Mm.
Yeah. And, that's kind of like the journey of the book is, who I realized I am and realized I think who we all kind of are, at least, while we're walking this planet is that we're all humans and we're engineered to love who we are, love what we do, love who we're
Yeah.
with, all these things. And then all these other
Mhm.
things are just kind of like fun things we can like pick up and play with. Like be like a kid, like, "Oh, I'm going to play engineer. I'm going to play, manly man, or, I'm going to play like, woman that's, going to go get waxed or whatever it is. But you don't want to like, I don't know. I found it can be dangerous to forget that these are just things we can pick up and have fun with and have useful and confuse that, like, oh, I am, husband or I am
Mhm.
accountant or I am lawyer. And that's when it gets painful, like really painful.
Yeah, so really paying attention on what we add after the I am, as we know, when we say I am something, it's our identity, it's how we see ourselves. And the way we see ourselves, we cannot break it until we are conscious about it and until we really start paying attention of, okay, am I okay with still being that? Because maybe I was that in the past, but do I want to continue that way? And I know language is such an important thing when we start creating these shifts. And I tell my audience, I tell my clients, really pay attention when to the words you're using. And if there is something that you want to change, make sure you start putting it in the past. It doesn't matter if it was just 5 seconds ago that you did that or that it happened, it was still in the past. And based on what you shared with your journey, Justin, I heard you saying some really major things there from when you are like, okay, I'm ready for a big change. I'm ready for a big transformation, a big transition right now. You really realize that I have to change something within my environment. So you started by taking a leave of absence from your work, and then you created a shift within your relationship. So when you were at that cross point of, oh my gosh, I have to create the shift right now, the change. What were some of the things, some of the symptoms? Like, would it keep you awake at night? The fact that you're like, oh my God, I'm just living the same life, the same way. And it was just so painful to live in the same way that you're like, I have to make this shift? Or what were some of the symptoms that really catapulted you to create that shift within your environment? Because I think a lot of people really struggle there. And I know even on my experience, traveling
Mhm.
and putting myself in different environments, meeting new people, it changed myself and my thinking dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I want to touch on is, the changing of environments. Because I don't know if you experience this or some people that you've met maybe have that where that's, I think, a bit of a personal development trap. It's like, well, if I just change enough, then I don't have to change anything in my environment. I can keep doing the shitty job. I can be around the shitty friends. I can be in the shitty relationship. I just need to change my attitude enough. And I think that can work a little bit, and maybe it sort of just depends on, where you're meant to be and who you got around already. But I think there does
Mhm.
get to a point where it's like, if you're meant to have a dramatically different life, your life is going to be dramatically different. That's going to include, where you are, who you're hanging out
Mhm.
with, and the types of activities you're doing. So some of this like does end up resulting in major changes in your environment. But for me, like there were like lots of things that were clues that I tried so hard to ignore them, for so long. Like you talk about like sleeping, like I had always had like a really hard time to sleep. And it's like I look back and so I was like, I can't believe how many years I would take like NyQuil to go to sleep. Like the
Wow.
which is like over the counter, like it's probably just short of like, some horrible drug here, but it's legal. You just go to any pharmacy here in the US, and yeah, it's pretty nasty stuff. And I'm just like, what was I doing to like my digestive system, my liver, my brain with all of those things? It's like that was, one clue. And gradually, like I started having like more and more like body pains of like shoulder stuff, back stuff, sciatica. And I, went to one doctor once, and she's like, "You're too young to be having these kinds of problems. Like there's something in your environment that you probably should shift." And so it's like these things, they start to like, get on a roll. And back then it probably took me, I don't know, 5, 10 times to hear something before maybe I would do something. And now I'm like, I just need to hear the universe tell me something twice. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going. Like what two people mentioned some sort of weird uh, retreat thing called ISTA. Like, all right, two people said it, time to go. All right, fine. I'm in.
Amazing. So now you are so much more open to listen to the guidance that you're
Hmm.
receiving, to listening to the intuition, where before it sounds that you were so disconnected from your body and from any type of higher guidance, any type of higher connection, that you couldn't really hear it. And I would love to hear, how do you define spirituality before we move forward? Because a lot of people, they have a hard time finding the higher power to connect with. And one of my purpose in this podcast is really to give our audiences many different perspectives on how they can look at it and how they can connect with that higher power.
Yeah. Like literally spirituality, like the entire unseen universe is the limit, right? And which is no limit effectively. And I like to kind of go make things as simple as possible. That I feel like for me, a good start, and I think where anyone can start, is just like anything outside of the mind, outside of
Mm.
the thoughts. I was just talking to a client today, and I was telling him that, because we did like a relaxation exercise of breathing, and I was like, "How is it for you?" He's like, "I don't know, I like had these thoughts, and they like weren't going away, and I well, I made me kind of tense actually. The thoughts didn't go in." I was like, "Well, you don't get worried when the heart beats. You don't get worried when the lungs breathe. So why should you get worried when the mind thinks? That's just what the mind does." And I think many of us get stuck in the mind and think that whatever the mind is thinking is true, that becomes our God effectively. That's
Mm.
the Western modern spirituality is, if I can think it and it logically makes sense, then that's all there is to the universe. And so to me, it's just kind of like getting out of
Yeah.
that and so, sometimes a lot of the focus is like going above, but sometimes to me, like just going in and even just starting to listen to the other parts of the body. Like, what's my posture like? Like, how's my heart rate? And why
Mhm.
am I anxious or am I excited? Which is where the language kind of comes in, being careful of what we call things. So,
Yeah.
and then I feel like some of these other things can start to come naturally. Once we kind of like get out of the mind and give up that's the boss, then just becomes this whole amazing world of possibility, from, listening to the body to listening to maybe different types of thoughts like inspiration, which has a different quality. It's like it's subtler, but it kind of just doesn't go away sometimes. And then, some people have all sorts of visions and things like that, like especially if you do plant medicine and things like that, which I've tried out, or even just deep breathing sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, you can have transcendent experiences just from breath work.
Yes. And what I'm taking on from your description on spirituality is that it takes courage to believe in something beyond the logical mind. It takes courage to trust into the signs, to trust into your intuition, because it's easy to stay into the comfort. It's easy to really just go with what the mind says, but then you end up just living such a limited life, because our minds, in what they can comprehend and what they can see, they are very limited.
And I always try to like, give some love for this is getting out of the mind into the heart and let the heart do its thing, which is like, go like, well, the mind is so sweet. Like it's trying to keep us safe and have things make sense because there's a lot going on that we don't know. So it's gotten, the mind's like, I got you this far, motherfucker. Like, why are you going to stop doing it to me? And we kind of got to like back up and go like, you didn't, thank you. But things are different now. Like there were good reasons like that we needed, it's like the limitations in some ways, like being in like a cage or something. It's like being in a shark cage. It's like, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
gonna be, with a great white shark, you're gonna want that shark cage. It's gonna protect you. But if there's no great white shark and there's just a bunch of like octopus turtles and like blue tang and all these other beautiful things, and like, why do you want to stay in the cage anymore? You don't want to stay in the cage. You want to get out. You want to go swim and be free and try some stuff out. And the mind isn't gonna be the one to tell you to do that, because it's gonna go like, that
No.
shark could come back. But the heart's gonna go like, we know the shark is gone and we're adults and we got all sorts of power to help us as autonomous, sovereign, adult human. We don't have to worry about the shark anymore. Just trust us, baby bird. Let's go fly. I know I'm mixing
Yes.
swimming and flying, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. And let's see. I would love to hear from you on what were some of the steps that you took when you're like, okay, I'm making this change. What are some of the tools to help you through the transition from just being full time into a corporate job, into the IT, to then transitioning to starting your coaching business, to writing a book? And I know for me, it was similar to what you shared, that okay, you didn't just took the leap of faith of how so many people think that you just have to quit your full-time job and just go after your passion, go after your purpose and just start your business. But sometimes we just need to do those steps gradually. Like
Mhm.
maybe okay, work less hours into your job. Oh, start working on your passion and discovering your purpose into your weekends. And I know this is how I started. When I started on my journey, I was working two jobs. And then I started studying coaching, and I would wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go through the curriculum before I would go to my jobs to study and get accustomed and get into that energy. And I did that for a couple of months until I found the courage to quit one of the jobs. And then I went with one job part time for probably over a year. And then I was more and more building my business until I got to the point of like, okay, that's it. I'm quitting any jobs. And now I'm full time into my business. But it was a progression. It was a transition. I would say a slow transition of a couple of years. We didn't just happen, okay, I found my purpose, which is coaching, and I'm just quitting my job and go blindly for it. And that was my journey. And I'd love to hear what was your journey? Because I know even recently, one of my friends, he's been in the same job since he was 19, super well
Mhm.
paid sales job. And now he has this desire of, oh my God, I know I have to do something else, something different, and I want to travel the world. It's just so hard for him to let go of the comfort, to let go of the money. And now let's have him in our mind and just imagine you speak to him because he's still in the stage of finding his purpose right now. And he really cannot make like a decision with what to do next other than just investing some time in his personal growth. What are some of the tools and tips you would give to him right now if he would be in front of you?
Yeah, that it's the golden handcuffs, as I like to say. And yeah, it's like, oh, well, the money's too good. I can't do that. There ends up being a couple of things that, come, and a lot of this is even, better if I could actually talk to the person and really like dive in, which is one of the things I love doing when I'm in one-on-one or with a group of people, because I would ask like, well, what's the fuck's the point of all the money? Like sometimes we forget that there was a reason why we started making money in the first place, and we forget that, and then we just start to go like, think that that's an end in and of itself, when really, like, this is one of the things I learned from Vishen, the founder of Mind Valley. Is the difference between an ends goal and a means goal. Or a means goal is just like, you're just doing that to get to something else. Like, it's like, why did you go to school? Oh, because so I could get a good job. It's like, then you probably didn't really actually want to go to school. If you could have just gotten a good job, why would you have gone to school? It's like, you know, but if you love learning, then like, yeah, you would just go to school to go to school. When we kind of get to like what's the end state. So that's one of the things that I want to kind of like find out from him is like what's the end state? Is it to have adventures? Is it to have safety? Is it to attract a partner? Because we're like, dude, depending on which of those is like most valued, then to me, I would go like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can bring some of that into today. Because when we're sort of just so focused on in the future, I'll get what I want. Then it feels like I thought this thing I'm doing will eventually, and you're asking me to give up what I'm doing now. That means I have to give up the future thing now. Whereas kind of like you were saying when in your journey, when you were doing like step by step, you weren't a part of you is stepping towards the future, but part of you is pulling your future into the present. And
Yeah.
so then when you were letting something go, it wasn't like you had nothing. You were like, I'm having my dream. I have some of it now. I want bigger. I want more. So
Yeah.
more. And that it's one of those like I think we hear all of these stories about the people that quit their job and then go, hardcore. But I mean, I don't have the statistics. We could probably go to Chat GPT and it'll probably create some for us. But I'm guessing like maybe 1% of people that actually go that way actually, but those are the loudest fuckers on the internet and on Instagram and all these things that are just like, yeah, quit your job and, grind out and in 90 days, you'll be, seven figures, eight figures, all this. And that's not how I'm working. I don't think that's not how you work. I don't think most of us work that way. I think most of us are like just little by little, but like, cause I know like there were steps in your journey where you were probably like shitting your pants practically. Like, am I really going to quit my job? And like,
Yeah.
in the past, it seems like no big deal, but like in the time, these are huge life-changing things. And I think to like honor that and, see the sacredness in that those brave steps that like you took that I've taken and that, even just somebody to like taking an improv class, like that was one of the step I took like 10 years ago was like, what? I'm sick of the same people that I've been meeting. Like, how can I meet new people and have some fun? Like, oh, how about an improv class?
I just
Like,
did that. I just did that in Bali, and oh my God, it's so uncomfortable, but so much growth there. So much
oh
growth
yeah,
to really challenging ourselves. And this is what I loved in my environment, especially here in Bali, that I met so many people that would constantly just challenge themselves to be better, to do cleanses, to do juicing, to do improv, whatever it is, but challenging ourselves so we don't just live in this status quo and we don't get so accustomed and habitual with our own being that life just feels so boring because there is nothing new, there is no growth, no excitement. And this is the trap that I've been in and probably you've been in and the majority of people where you just go through life but you don't really live life.
yeah,
And
just like
that's the
passing time.
difference. Yes, just to pass time. And I hear that a lot from my dad right now. I like when he's
Mhm.
retired and he has no hobby. He has like nothing that he's interested in. And when I talk to him, I'm like, Dad, so how are you? He's like, just here passing time. I'm like, wow, that's like for me, so sad. Like that's his life, he's the one that chose it. So each and every one of us, we choose the way we want to live our life. And when we are talking about these big decisions of, okay, it's time to create these big shifts, maybe quitting your job, changing your job, or transitioning to working less hours than you have done before. You just share that, okay, the majority of people do it through a slower transition. And it's not just from one day to another that, okay, I'm deciding right now, I'm going to find my purpose and just quit my job because just our nervous system cannot
Mm.
really make it. It's gonna freak the hell out, and it's
Oh
not
yeah,
really gonna be able to find answers.
yeah. Because I think that's a really good point. Because most of us that are in that situation, it's because our nervous system is like stressed. We're burnt out. We're kind of like at our wits' end, and we're not actually thinking very straight. It's effectively like being on probably lots of drugs. which, a lot of our media likes to have us in that state because
Mhm.
it's a great way for people to make suggestions that aren't in your best interest. So it's like, well, buy this, take that, consume that, stay in this state. And so I'm a big proponent of anything that allows you to get in a relaxed state more and more. I'm a big believer that relaxed is actually the most powerful state we can be in
Mm.
because that means we have access to not just our thoughts, but all of us, which is, our emotions, our physicality, and then any, energetic spiritual connections. So, anything that can kind of get you in a relaxed flow state. And it, you know, probably if you're not there, then it's got to be something different than you've been doing. But it can be a new type of exercise. I think even improv, you're sure you probably like it. There was probably some moments where you're just like, oh my God, I am in the flow. And like, I can't believe I just said that. That was an amazing part of the scene that I don't even know where that line came from.
Yeah.
And like and it was like, cause you were relaxed, you were in the scene, you were in you and life, and you were one with everything and created beauty. Like, but also, meditation, relaxation exercises, qigong, yoga, there's plant medicines, retreats, travel. There's lots of ways. Whatever one seems the least frightening, I would say to somebody, like start there,
Mhm.
and then like little by little.
Okay, so take small steps. You don't need to make a drastic decision from one day to another, but it is important to start taking action towards the future, towards this vision, towards this desire. And I would say if you can implement some sort of action
Mhm.
every single day, it would it would it accelerate your path instead of, oh, I'm just gonna do it once a week where I'm gonna meditate, let's say, or where I'm gonna visualize or whatever it is tools that you decide to apply. Really start asking yourself, even if you just do it 5 minutes a day, how can I get in touch with my vision, with my desire, with just this purpose. Maybe right now you don't know what your purpose is, but just with this desire of connecting with your purpose, even just a few minutes a day. So, taking small steps, applying this every single day in your life. Don't make drastic decisions because your nervous system is not going to be able to handle it. And what else when you're looking at your journey? You said you took a leave of absence. Does
Yeah.
that mean you in the leave of absence you were still getting paid from your job? It was just like a break. How exactly that works? And is that
So
something that the majority of companies offer, like when you work in a corporate world?
so I was like at a point where I was like, okay, I'm very close to quitting. I don't know. I just had like the idea this weekend that I'm like I should write like a little like report for people like don't quit until you've looked at these like 8 options type of a thing. Because when you're ready to quit, you literally have all of the power. Nothing can get worse than you quitting and going home without pay. So you might as well try so many things. And so it's really going to depend on like what country you are in the US, even what state you are, and then also like what company and then how long you've been with the company. For me, fortunate, large tech company also based in California have like, some of the best like worker friendly programs. And so I was able to take a medical leave of absence for depression because I was, yeah, very depressed. So I ended up being able to take 10 months off. And I think I got 8 months of that paid. So not like 100%, but pretty close. And again, like that wasn't like my first thing. It's like, I'd been, kind of some years before that, like trying things out, and doing different things and little by little. But I think that was just like my time. It's like, okay, something bigger is needed. Like I'm allowed myself to get too stuck. And one of the things that I would encourage a lot of people that were like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I did this for a few years was take the pressure off by letting the purpose be just enjoy finding my purpose.
Mm.
Like just give yourself the permission to like mess around and have fun and play. And because eventually you'll find something where it's just like you keep coming back to it. Like even no matter how dumb it seems or how illogical or how whatever, or you can also get, I don't want to like put that in people, or, it might just be super easy and flow and happen brilliantly with like no effort at all. If whatever it is, you're just gonna like keep being drawn to something. But when you're like in the pursuit of something that you care about, which could just be finding what you care about, you get more energy and you get more time. So I'm guessing you probably found that like, you're working 2 jobs, but when you know, started actually like putting an hour towards yourself and something that mattered for you, then it's all of a sudden like you have that extra hour in the day to do that and still do that stuff. And then later you're just like, well, this is silly. Like I'm more important than 1 hour. Like let me get rid of this one job and let me add a few hours. One exercise that I found has really been helpful for me is because it could be like most people, even if I was to go like, this is your purpose, you are meant to, they wouldn't do it. Now I'm not for me. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. They don't have the self love. So I'm a really big proponent of like of this. I love myself meditation. There's a guy that wrote a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. He was like a tech CEO or something, and I think he starts off saying like he was ready to jump off a bridge practically.
Is
So
he an Indian guy?
I think so.
I met him
You
in Dubai.
met
I met him in Dubai.
him.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
only read his. I don't even think I read the whole book because it's like I got the point, and
Yeah.
but he's like, yeah, you just saying because most affirmations like that they don't really work super great. They take a lot of effort, a lot of time, which is why I teach something else called identity installation questions, which we could talk about that later. But I love myself goes through because like we know we have experience of self love from like
Yeah.
our mother's body. Doesn't matter how wicked of a cunt she could have ever been. Like her body got you to the point that you're alive now, and then your body all through whatever you've done, anything, it's been loving you enough so that you're here breathing, you're here listening. So it's like you inherently know self love on some level. So it taps into that. And so it's just a really simple meditation where just on an inhale, just I love myself. And then you like exhale. And I add either I accept myself, because it's also really important to like accept where we are,
Mhm.
whether, how much we weigh, what do we look like in the mirror, what our current income is. Like, we can't get to Dubai. We're not going to accept that we're in Bali, right? Or that I'm in California. Like it's not going to help. So we got to accept where we are. So I love myself. I accept myself. Just inhaling and exhaling. And I'd say like a few minutes of that a day is going to be huge. And bonus points if you can do it in the mirror. And
Oh,
if you're like me, you're probably going to cry a lot.
yeah. Same here.
Yeah, but it does work over time. It is magic, and those tears are clearing away all the shit that doesn't work.
And looking into your eyes when you're doing, and
Mhm.
this takes me to the mirror exercise from Lisa Nichols. Have
Mhm.
you done that one?
What
Where
I might be familiar with it.
so
I
let's
haven't
see if
done
I
experience.
remembering, because I've done it on my like the beginning of my journey for 30
I just
days.
saw Lisa Nichols join, so you better get this right.
Yes. But she didn't share the mirror exercise, but let me see. So you look into the mirror, you look into your eyes and you say your name and you say 7 times, I am Andrea, or whatever it's your name, I am proud of, and whatever it is that you are proud of for doing, for achieving, for being, whatever it is, 7 times. Then you say, I forgive you, Andrea, I forgive you for, and you say it 7 times, and then you say Andrea 7 times, your name, and I commit to. What is it that you commit to? And it can be anything. I commit to accepting you fully. I commit to loving you fully. I commit to stop eating crab,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want to commit to. And if you want to go deeper into this mirror exercise, just go on YouTube and look up Lisa Nichols mirror exercise. It literally changed my life, and it changed how I relate to myself, how I love myself, how I accept myself. And I recommended it to so many people throughout the years because of the profound impact it had on me. I couldn't say it at the beginning. I couldn't look
Mhm.
at myself through the mirror because I was just crying, as you were saying, so much because I never got in touch with my soul
Yeah.
as deeper as that mirror exercise made you connect to it. Because when you look into your eyes, we know that the eyes are the connection to your soul. So if you want to go deep, if you want to connect with yourself, if you want to learn how to love yourself, really give yourself this space. It only takes a few minutes a day
Yeah.
to do this profound exercise for 30 days. It does have a huge impact when you actually do it for 30 days. And if you have a hard time committing, just find an accountability partner. Find someone to hold each other accountable on this journey, because that also, for me, at the beginning when I started, it was so important to have that accountability, because I couldn't
Mhm.
keep up to my word. I couldn't keep up. If I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I would actually do it. And I think the majority of people are in that stage because we don't have that trust and confidence built within ourselves and within our own word to keep our promises to ourselves. And with the accountability, it's so much easier to keep up to the promise when you say to someone else or to a coach, especially if it's someone that is not your friend, that is not your partner. And if you pay them, even better. Like if you need a coach, make sure you reach out to us. Even better, because then your commitment and your energetic investment, time, and so on, it's so much higher than if you just find a friend and, oh, yeah, I'm just going to do that. It can work, but depends the level you are at.
Yeah. And the type of friends you might have already. Yeah. Because chances are, if you have a hard time committing, you might have friends that also have a hard time committing. And, if you let yourself off
Exactly.
the hook, your friends might let you off. So there is something to bring in somebody who's, got the attributes that you want to bring out. I do want to like offer some like super starter things to be proud of and for people to commit to. Because like, I know I've done a lot of these things where it's like, yeah, say something I like about myself. I'm like, I can't think of anything. So, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Give people
So
some prompts.
well, I'm just gonna make it really simple. So be proud of yourself for doing the mirror exercise. That's all you gotta do. It's something you're doing, be proud of yourself. And then to commit, just commit to doing the mirror exercise again tomorrow for at least 1 minute. That's it.
Yeah,
Simple. So
amazing.
simple. And then like you leave yourself wanting more. And then it's like you'll show up the next morning and be like, well, I guess I'm also proud that I showed up again today. And then it'll go. But we make things so hard for ourselves sometimes,
Mhm.
or at least used to. I'm getting better and better, and I know you have. And
We are just getting better with time by doing these small incremental steps. So now
mhm.
we have a lot of tips, a lot of tools for people to implement and really start looking at their transition, their purpose from so many different angles. And with the purpose, I loved what you said, to really make your purpose in the present moment of finding your purpose. That's it. And making it fun and really enjoy that journey, because we heard so many times that sometimes I was so annoyed of keep hearing it that, oh, it's not about the outcome, it's about the journey. But in that moment, I really couldn't get it. I really couldn't understand it because I was so freaking
Yeah.
frustrated on the journey. And I was so obsessed with finding my purpose that I was like, how can I enjoy this? How can I enjoy it? But I want the answer and I want it now. So I think bringing in the patience in your journey, where it comes back to the acceptance. Now, accepting no matter where you are at, and knowing that any given moment, you are exactly where you have to. This
Yeah.
is exactly where you have to be based on your evolution, based on your awakening,
Mhm.
based on all these things. You are exactly where you have to be. So accepting that, it's actually going to open you up and it's going to create space for more to come, for more awareness, for the intuition, for the clarity,
Mhm.
and so on to come. And one thing that brings me here is really, I heard this at the beginning of my journey, and I don't remember from who, but it said something around clarity comes with action. clarity comes with action, because there was a time where it was so hard for me to take action. I was procrastinating on everything that I just couldn't take the action. And then I was so frustrated because I didn't have the clarity and I didn't know what to do next. And then it's this vicious cycle that we go in. And then when I heard, okay, actually, for me, in order to get clarity on my purpose, on my next steps, and so on,
Yeah.
it's just taking one step right now. It's just
Yeah.
taking one action. That's all I need to focus on one action in order to get more clarity. So if there is something for you guys to remember, it's just take any type of action, because any type of action, it's more than no action.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because when you take a step, you will know I like that or I didn't. If you just stay where you are, however you feel about where you are still going to feel that way about how you are. And you're just one more day closer to death. That is, that's one less day you have to possibly take a step. Like it's just the simple truth of it. Like, none of us knows exactly how many days we have here. And I know, both Andrea and I have experienced losing people that, we loved and we didn't necessarily know how many more days, we would have had or not had. And so the only thing that you kind of can control is like, what am I going to do with this time? And if you don't like what you're doing with it, do something else. And there's ways to figure out what to do. I know because I grew up in that, that cage of I want to be safe and I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to go out of my logical mind. So I tricked myself into thinking like, oh, I don't want to do anything, or I don't like anything. Like in my book, I write about it as some people use the term people pleaser, but I like to use the term service top, which
Mm.
is basically, so this is like a sort of like a kink, a sexual kink term, which is, the person's sort of like dominating or in control of things. And so often you would think like, well, this person, they have something that they want to get out of this, like they want to tie somebody up, let's say. But service top is they just want to do what the other person wants to do. They want to make sure they have a good time. They're willing to do all of the work, create all of the structure, do all of the things, but they're like, well, oh, you want to be tied up? Oh, no, I can tie you up. Like, oh, you want to dress up and pretend, it's, I don't know, something. You want to pretend something, doctor, nurse or something like, okay, yeah, we can do that. But we all have things that we want. Just we sometimes they be hidden from us. And so that's part of the exploration is like, well, how do I find out what's my most of my life kink? Is it travel? Is it, writing a book? Is it, doing carpentry? Is it doing improv? And one of the most helpful things, and I have a whole process in my book about this. I'll plug it. Engineer to Love, Going Beyond Success Fulfillment. It's very simple. Like everyone is really good. Like, yeah, what foods while you've been in Bali did you not like, Andrea? Were there any foods that you didn't like?
If there are any experiences
Yeah.
that I didn't, mm,
Yeah.
I would say the traffic. The road to get to my place, it was so challenging, and it was so challenging for me because I was challenged driving a motor scooter. And at the beginning, when I came to this gorgeous house, that it's exactly what I was having on my manifestation list for the house.
Hmm.
I didn't think about including the way to get there. So this is something that I will include in my next list for my future house manifestation.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking, I don't think I can stay here. I think I have to look for another place. But what am I going to do? I already committed. I already paid for 3 weeks. Am I going to lose the money that I
Right.
paid?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look for another place because I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to get into another accident. Or am I going to just take it super slow every single day, challenge myself by doing it, and just get comfortable with it? And I can tell you now, after 3 weeks of staying in this house, I'm an amazing driver. I'm not afraid at all to drive the scooter. And I'm even on this challenging road. I'm like, oh my God, I can do it. It's so easy right now after 3 weeks of keep doing it every single day, that it really showed me, if we go slow, because that's one of the
Hmm.
things I did, if we challenge ourselves, That's another thing I have done. And then if we give it time, we need to give it time for everything.
Yeah.
Then we can do anything and we can overcome any challenge.
I love that. Like you did so many amazing things. Like one thing is like, you know, think you demonstrated that we all have the ability to complain. Like no matter how much of paradise we are in, we get 99.9%. You can always find something to complain about.
Yes.
And I'm going to say that that is actually a brilliant, amazing skill. Just most of us don't utilize it, but you did. You've actually already also demonstrated how you use that to then pivot from that pain to something that actually makes you happy. So like you find something that you don't enjoy, and then it's like, well, where do I want to go? Because really, it sounds like you didn't. It wasn't the traffic. It was like you didn't enjoy being frustrated in the traffic. So you found ways to relax with it, work with it, so that then it wasn't bothering you from the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
But you're like, this thing is, I don't like this. And then like, okay, where can I go next? And it's using that, it's that bouncing off. This is actually the power of like anger and rage that lets you know that like there's something fucking wrong. There's something I don't like here. And it's giving you the indication and the energy to do something about that. I encourage people to like tap into like write down your complaints, write down what don't you like about your job? What do you like about the people in your life? What don't you like about where you live? All this stuff. And then we're going to go like, okay, what's something different than that? And then now that's where you can start heading to. Cause like that's all manifestation is in some ways, right? It's just like, well, I just need to point my arrow in some direction that's not right here. If I keep pointing it
Mhm.
where I am, I'm going to get where I am. And that's how most people's manifestation machine is working is they're in the loop of here now, here now, here now. And clearly you don't like that, but we haven't gotten out of it. And so that's the way to get out of that loop is to complain, but don't stay in the complaint. It's to then go like, what's not my complaint? And some stuff's opposite, but then some stuff, yeah, you get to be a little bit creative. It's like, I don't know, a lot of people hate the desert. So like, what's the opposite of living in the desert? I don't know. Is it the beach? Is it the mountains? Doesn't matter. Get the hell out of the desert. That's the important
Yeah.
thing. Go somewhere but the desert. Maybe you
Yeah.
go to the
And
mountains and you find out you hate the mountains too. Then all right, go to the beach.
exactly. And as you were saying about complaining, it's in our human nature that we are going to complain. Like, no matter how aware, how enlightened, how well you are and aware, we are going to still find things to complain about because we are humans. We are searching
Yeah.
for this perfection to say it out like that. But it's a matter, okay, when you complain, are you aware of it? Do you realize it? And then do you take responsibility to shift yourself, how you said, to bounce yourself out of it because only you can do it. No one else can do it for you. So are you taking that
Yeah.
responsibility that, okay, I'm not happy with this. I'm complaining about it. So what are the solutions? What can I do about it? And not waiting for someone to come up with a solution or save you because you are your own savior. And it was such an important thing for me to realize that, oh, I have to stop waiting for the right coach, for the perfect partner, for the, whatever, perfect job, for perfect business to give me this satisfaction and fulfillment and this illusion of, oh, they got me and they gonna hold me and they're gonna give me everything I need. No, it's really getting back to yourself, getting back to your truth, to your inside, getting in touch with that and being like, okay, how can I take it and make it my own? How can I take the responsibility? How can I shift out of this reality that I don't enjoy anymore?
Yeah. And yeah, responsibility is huge. And it kind of goes to that acceptance. Like if you can't accept, who you are, where you are, what's going on, then you can't take responsibility for it. And just because you accept it doesn't mean you have to like it. Like you can hate it, you can be angry, whatever.
Mhm.
That's something to accept too. And to feel that and work with
Yeah.
that and then let that stuff go. Like as stuff becomes seen, a lot of stuff just sort of starts to work itself out. It's often like this ignoring and this trying to avoid. Did I say that
Mhm.
twice? Anyway,
Yes.
it ends up creating more of a problem than the problem in and of itself. Like And it's okay too, because sometimes it's like, yeah, we're just not ready. But
Yeah, and the acceptance it took me to when I was on my journey with my partner on the cancer journey. That was the biggest one of the biggest things I had to learn was to accept his decisions, especially around his treatments and around the food. That was one of the biggest triggers with us.
mhm.
Accepting his decisions without agreeing with them, and that was such a huge revelation for me because I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to agree with his decisions, with his choices in order to accept them.
Yeah, like you're respecting him and you're respecting yourself at the same time. Like he's his own person, you're your own person. You don't have to agree. And then some things are going to be his, and then other things are going to be yours. And
Yes.
it can also be
And
frustrating, but that ends up being way more workable than, well, we both have to agree on the same thing. And
exactly. It's just accepting me and my partner, we were having very different thought process and world of views, like the way we're looking at the world. We were very different. And one of the things I was constantly telling him, your opinion, your perspective, it's your truth. And I accept that. That's your truth. But my truth and the way I look at the world, the way I see the world, the way I look at this situation, it's different. And I have a different truth. And I think it's really getting to that place of accepting that our truth, it's not like this fixed truth, fixed, thing that, okay, this is water, this is the sky, whatever. It's just our own perception that we come from our internal world, which is gonna be different for each and every person based on their life experience.
yeah, because how we got here is going to color, yeah, what here is to us and what we want to
Exactly.
do next. And yeah, so there's in some ways 5 billion, versions of reality, 5 billion
Yes. And
worlds.
what is one phrase, one word you would like to leave people with, those that are on their path, on their awakening, maybe on their path of making transition, this big transition from their job into their purpose? What is something you would like to leave them with?
So what I'd really like to leave somebody that's like in that space of like, I don't want to be here. There's got to be something more. I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm frustrated. Like there's not enough time. There's not enough money. I sure just want to say I love you and it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And I think the most important thing is you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. That's probably sometimes the worst feeling is to have the weight of your world and like nobody's there to share the support. There's so many people and ways, and just to find some little way to start getting that support and that help, whether it is a coach or a therapist or a book or a podcast, and then start doing even more actions for yourself. Just that little by little, because you're worth it. You're so worth it.
Yeah.
Like you're not meant to be miserable. You're not meant to be frustrated. There's no reward. There is zero reward. I followed the rules. I was such a good rule follower for like all of my life. And you know what I got for it? I got fucking depressed and divorced and, you know, lost just about everything. That's what I got. And,
Mm.
now as I like, you know, go more from the heart, and like some rules are aligned to the heart, and then other rules are there just to, pad somebody else's bottom line or allow just somebody to have their control kick or whatever, and see yeah, that I can live the way I want to live. And I want you to live the way you want to live. And yeah, we can all live the way we want to live without
Exactly.
harming each other. It's totally possible. So yeah, you're all worth it. So thank you.
Anything and everything is possible. And we are truly telling you this from the bottom of our heart because we have been through the journey. We are going through the
Oh
journey.
yeah.
It is a constant journey. It never stops, it never ends. And that's the beauty of it. And thank you to each and every one of you for joining us, for listening on the podcast. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And please share this podcast episode with other friends, with people that need to hear this message, for those people that are going through major transition right now, that are in their job and they know they want to create a shift, they know they want to create a change. And go and follow Justin, follow me for future episodes where I'm going to continue bringing you amazing guests like Justin. And do not forget that I love you, I appreciate you, and I believe in you no matter what, no matter where you're at. And we are here to show you the l- limitless possibilities of what you can do and the way you can live your life in a way that aligned and authentic to your heart. Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self, and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.